like sober is such an outdated word these days. It's like I stopped drinking for personal reasons just to like feel better. And it's there, like people can be sober for an hour a day, a week, a month. And I'd say a good percentage of our customers still drink on like maybe a Friday night or like one night a week. But 50% of adults have 0.1 drinks or less per week. So like the marketing stigma around not drinking is pretty outdated at this point.
I agree. And why wouldn't you? We just had an Olympian in the room. Why wouldn't you, as a regular person, why wouldn't you treat yourself like an Olympian?
Welcome to the Spartan Up podcast with Joe Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan Race.
We are talking about overcoming obstacles. The same way we teach people to get over obstacles on the course, we will teach you here on the Spartan Up podcast to get over obstacles in your mind.
Bill Shufelt left his job in finance to start something new, Athletic Brewing Company. In this two-part interview with both Johnnie Waite and Joe Sena, Bill shares lessons he learned along the way in his business and health journey to reduce alcohol and improve performance. Today's episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by BetterHelp. Spartan Up listeners can save 10% on their first month by going to betterhelp.com/Spartan.
Hey, I'm Johnnie Waite, one of the hosts of the Spartan Up podcast, and I'm here today with Bill Shufelt, the founder of Athletic Brewing. This conversation has been a really cool chance for me to reframe the way I think about drinking. And speaking of great conversations, Bill also had a chance to sit down with Joe Sena, our founder and CEO and host of the Spartan Up podcast, back in Fenway Park in November. So it's really great to be able to revisit with you and just catch up. Hey, Bill, I used to be a bartender, and so I've experienced when somebody comes up and says, "Hey, do you have anything with no alcohol in it?" As though it's like a secret, right? And is that shifting? Are people now starting to ask for it more straight up, or is that still how it's being ordered?
It used to be this like mic drop moment when someone would order a non-alcoholic beer and have to like reiterate it 3 times. And they're like, let me check. I don't know. And it like makes you feel like the weirdest person in the room, where
Sure.
I'm literally just a guy who wants to run 10 miles in the morning and get a good night's sleep, but like watch a game with my friends. And so it really grew out of that lifestyle. I think it is changing.
So if you're somebody who's never really thought before, I want to cut down on my drinking, you're starting to think, maybe. Why would they?
Yeah, I mean, the list is endless, really. It's sleep, it's hours back on your weekends, hours back in your evenings, better hydration, anti-inflammatory, readiness for anything in your life, be that work, personal, if you have to drive your kids somewhere, if there's an emergency. Really, so many reasons.
It's funny, you said something that I hadn't really thought of before, the idea of if you have to drive your kids somewhere. You know, the idea that if you're at home on an evening and something happens, you don't want to not be able to respond. I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah, 1 or 2 drinks. I mean, you are done with car, you are done with work, you are done with, like, that is the end of your day in the sand a lot of times.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really great point. So in terms of how, so if somebody's saying, okay, how can I do this without completely turning my life upside down? Because I think that's part of it, right? It's like, I don't want to completely quit drinking. How do you do this? Like, what are some ways they can start to shift in this direction?
Yeah, I think so. There are a couple of easy ways, and I think it'll happen intuitively and it'll be exciting. One is kind of have it up front prominently in your fridge. Like, there are so many occasions where a delicious beer or a great non-alcoholic drink of any kind can go well. And I think you'll find that 80% of the drinking occasions are actually better non-alcoholic versus the preconceived notion that everything is better with alcohol.
Sure.
Meal pairing, if you are planning a meal with a great drink pairing, that will elevate both the meal and the drink experience. And that I can
speak to that one. Just the other night I made a steak and I was not drinking and I saw a bottle of wine. I thought, oh man, I want to break my promise to myself this week to not drink so that steak will taste better.
Yeah, and so they're non-alcoholic wines, they're non-alcoholic whiskeys and spirits like Lyre's, Ritual Zero, and then it could really be anything across the range, or like the tacos I was talking about. And then I think the third would be like kind of hard code your occasions almost, because if you don't have a plan going in, it like everything goes out the window when you have 2 beers. But what if you decide that your second or third beer every Friday or every Saturday is going to be non-alcoholic? I like that extra hydration, that leveling out of your pacing and drinks. Trust me, it feels better.
That used to be the plan. You'd have a glass of water for every drink, which only works for the first one because then you don't want a glass of water after that. So I consider this a much, much better plan.
Exactly. Yeah. It's exciting. It tastes good. You'll forget that you're on your non-alcoholic round, and I think so. Like coming in with a game plan also.
In the past, it was thought of as if you were drinking a Virgin Caesar, it was only because you couldn't have alcohol, as opposed to I want that taste today, and I'm not going to have the alcohol today.
Yeah. And like in the past, it was speaking to like 0.1% of 1% of people. And like if you were drinking those products, people were trying to dial in what was wrong with you. And like now we are speaking to 80% of the days of the week and 80% of people with our products. And like, so we've like tried to totally flip the conversation, and really by just making it positive and authentic. I mean, it's like we made the beer we want to drink and we handed out to people at the races we were running anyway. And
Yeah.
so that's like, we're just having a lot of fun with it.
Is this, you talked about high performing athletes. Obviously, we'd all love to think of ourselves as high performing athletes. I'm not a high performance athlete. I'm an athlete, and I like my performance to be as high as it can be. But in terms of like mental acuity, things like that, I'm thinking of the old Mad Men 3 drink lunch, and so in that kind of context, is that you're finding it that way as well?
For sure. And so I'm not speaking to studies we've done on our beer here, but just like studies done in the world. Like beer has a lot of great health qualities. It's naturally anti-inflammatory for the respiratory system. It has a ton of electrolytes, potassium, magnesium, and a lot of good things for recovery. And if you take out the alcohol, which is very dehydrating, like there's a lot of positive stuff in there.
Sure.
And yeah, and it is also a fraction of the calories and just super hydrating. And just speaking to my personal experience alone, like I'd been a guy who had drank like 5 nights a week at work dinners or with friends or with my wife at a restaurant. But I would find that like my intellectual curiosity after that first beer would just like taper off, and like no important work emails were getting answered after 8 o'clock at night ever, or like in terms of like monitoring our company's social media or anything. Like you kind of have to go dark after you have a few drinks. In my experience was when I stopped drinking, I had this intellectual curiosity come back at night that I hadn't had since like high school. And like all of a sudden I was like on Khan Academy, like relearning things about like physics and chemistry that I was just like curious about again. And so it's been really fun to like unlock new hours of the day at night. And then on the weekends, the best part is like, I've always been an early riser, but like if you're having 3 glasses of wine or beer or something on a Friday, Saturday night, you're not having your best 6 a.m. on a Saturday. And like, so I found like 2 extra hours every day on the weekends as well, which is, everyone loves their weekends.
And so that's at home consumption. In terms of bars and restaurants and things like that, um, are you finding that they're starting to stock more, and not just more as in like more quantity, but more variety? Where it used to be, they might, your choices were soda water, or we could serve your Coke in a rock glass so that it looks like it has a rye in it too. But when you go in now, and are bars and restaurants starting to have like an actual menu of non-alcoholic drinks that
For sure.
for a drinker?
Yeah, so that's something that's definitely new since our last conversation. So it takes a lot of like hand-to-hand sampling and teaching bartenders and bar owners, but we've had some awesome bars adopt our beer. And like some bars, we've been their top beer for 15 plus months in a row. We ask like in major urban areas, like who's drinking our beer during the week? Like who are the major consumers? And it's all 20 somethings and 30 somethings. And we have bars that go 3 tap lines with our beers during the week and 1 on the weekend. Cause like just the consumption of our beer during the week goes up so much. And they find people who might have come in and had 1 beer end up staying for 4 because they can just level it out more too.
Well, I very much hope you get up to Canada now that you're our official sponsor in Canada as well. I will greet you with open arms, my friend, and a mask probably.
Yeah, Ryan Atkins and Lindsay Dawn Webster were talking about our beer so much on social media and stuff. We were getting so many inbounds from Canada, and we actually just went live online January 1st, and we'll be launching in stores later in the year at some point. But we will be at all the Spartan finish lines handing out beer this year in Canada too.
Awesome. Cool. Well, good talking, my friend. Great to catch up.
Great to see you again, Johnny. Thanks, Johnny.
We'll be back in just a second with Joe DeSena's original interview with Bill Shufelt that we recorded in Fenway Park back in November. Today's episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by BetterHelp. I want to tell you a little bit about them. This has been a tough year for a lot of people, and mental health is finally something that people are talking about. So many people are struggling right now. Therapy can help. Sometimes the bravest thing to do is to do the hard thing, which is asking for help. BetterHelp says therapy helps. So what is therapy? Well, BetterHelp says it's whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be sitting around talking about your feelings. With BetterHelp, you can talk to someone privately if you're just not feeling right, or you're having trouble dealing with stress or issues with your relationships. Whatever you need, you don't need to be ashamed of normal human struggles. You can feel better. Spartans, you deserve to be happy. And with BetterHelp, it's a little bit easier. You don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you. You can get help from home. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, even live chat sessions with your therapist. So you don't even have to see someone on camera if you don't want to. Times are tight financially too, but the good news is that BetterHelp is more affordable than in-person therapy. And you can get going really quickly. You can be communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. So join the millions of people who are seeing what therapy is really about. What's the greatest investment you can make? Investing in yourself, because you are your greatest asset. Make that asset function even better. Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp, and you, Spartan Up listeners, get 10% off your first month by going to betterhelp.com/Spartan. That's better, HELP.com/Spartan.
Spartans! I am here for Spartan Up Podcast with Bill Shufelt, and we are at Fenway. And this guy, if you don't know him, started something amazing. It's called Athletic Brewing, right?
Yep.
And it's a non-alcoholic beer. Turns out we come from a similar place. We both were in finance. We have friends in finance. We didn't know each other. But and then one day I saw this thing, Athletic Brewing, at one of the Spartan races. I guess you partnered with us, and then everybody's talking about it, and it's it tastes pretty good.
Well, thank you for having me here. Honestly, you've been a massive inspiration and fulfillment in my life and that I seek.
Tell my wife, would you? Because people do like me.
100%. And our whole motto is brew without compromise. It's like we want people to get the full beer experience and not have to sacrifice to not drink.
But you were saying something right before we started, which was alcohol, when you removed it from your life. And I saw that as well when I was in finance, productivity, hockey stick.
It's unbelievable, and it sounds really cheesy, but as I was exiting my 20s, turning 30, I was taking my job more seriously. I was starting to run longer races, a few ultramarathons. Spartan was coming onto the scene. And I was taking my diet, my fitness, my personal relationships as I was about to get married more seriously. And alcohol didn't really fit as much in any of those buckets. And I stopped drinking, training for a race for a month, and felt incredible. I wanted to accelerate the whole time I was working out in every workout. And then I all of a sudden realized at night I had a couple hours of intellectual curiosity that I didn't have. And was hanging out with my wife and felt great in the morning, and was waking up at 5, swinging my legs out of bed. And it was just an unbelievable, virtuous cycle almost, without sounding soapboxy at all. It was just a very natural thing.
Do you know, we're in an Irish town right now, and I have Irish in-laws, and it's a pretty tough sell, not only for them, but friends that drink. It's almost like we're outliers. Now, I know it's becoming more and more prominent and permeating its way through society, where people are saying, wait a minute, do we really need this alcohol? But the thing that drives me nuts is we're animals. You and I, all of us, we're animals. And it would be pretty strange if you came home and your dog or cat was drinking alcohol.
Yeah, it's
wouldn't that be weird? Yeah,
and it's everything we do and eat is so performance related and how we feel, and it's very inconsistent with everything else. And I also think do drink and don't drink. It's sober is such an outdated word these days. It's I stopped drinking for personal reasons just to feel better, and it's there. People can be sober for an hour, a day, a week, a month, and I'd say a good percentage of our customers still drink on maybe a Friday night or one night a week, but 50% of adults have 0.1 drinks or less per week. So the marketing stigma around not drinking is pretty outdated at this point.
I agree. And why wouldn't you? We just had an Olympian in the room. Why wouldn't you, as a regular person, why wouldn't you treat yourself like an Olympian?
Yeah, and it's been really cool to see kind of our hypothesis play out. Like myself as an athlete who saw it just to feel better and train better and everything, to see that actually reflected in the world, having really high-level athletes just find us organically. Like Ryan Kempson just showed up at the tap room, and he was like, this is very cool. I'm looking for something like this. And it's like an incredible organic connection. So
because people want to fill the void. They still want that taste. They want that socialization product in their hand, I guess, right?
100%. I mean, as I think back to like any happy hour I've gone to, any brunch I've gone to, it's not actually about, like, some of my favorite drinks I've ever had have been that first drink, getting to the bar and like seeing my brother, seeing a friend, and like, it's not about the alcohol at that point. It's about the social experience and like seeing people.
And some people maybe feel weird that they don't have. Another person said, you don't even realize it, but there are these connections in the brain. You may not want a meatball, using a food example, but you're remembering what it was like when grandma was around and she cooked the meatballs, right? And then there was family sitting at the table eating the meatballs. So it's not even the meatball you want. It's the memories that were associated with the meatball.
Oh, 100%. And yeah, our bodies are so much smarter than we realize. Like, we grasp such a small amount. And yeah, I was just talking to Marion about the placebo effect. And it's like, it is this incredible calming placebo effect, because like your body, you crack an IPA and your body's like, I'm on relaxing time now. And like, it's pretty cool.
But you can get that, where you get the same thing with an athletic brewing. What do I call it?
Athletic beers.
I like athletic beer. Yeah. And business is going well?
It's been really fun. I mean, we thought we'd built our brewery for 5 years. It was a big leap when I left a great, very stable financial job to make non-alcoholic beer and like seek a real fulfillment and positive impact in my life. And so it was kind of a crazy idea to raise a lot of money to build a brewery for non-alcoholic beer. But I was like, once this thing's built, it's built. And like, I've got a brewery for 5 years. It was under capacity in 10 months.
Wow.
We doubled it. And it was, as soon as that doubling was done, it was immediately under capacity already.
That's unbelievable.
So it's been really fun so far.
So a lot of times, even before athletic brewing existed, I would try to get people off beer and off alcohol. And the message I got was, you know, the ancients all believed in beer, and they say Guinness you could drink if you're pregnant, and it gives you iron. And so I didn't always have an answer for that. Is beer nutritionally sound?
There's actually a lot of good things going on in beer. Beer is naturally high in electrolytes. It has anti-inflammatory qualities for your respiratory system, vitamin B, D, a bunch of good things. It's just the alcohol itself is...
That's the killer.
Yeah, it is so dehydrating, and that is an inflammatory itself. And basically the rule of thumb is 20 calories per 1% alcohol, so it adds up fairly quickly.
So basically you're giving people all the good stuff in the beer without the bad stuff.
We'd like to think so. Yeah, our beers are certified organic, super clean label with 4 ingredients, and just like a really refreshing health, like we say, incrementally positive option.
I love it. I love it. All right, so you're doing something good because you're filling this void and hopefully getting the negative out of people's hands. For those out there that are trying to build a business, someday might want to start a business or just want to be successful in life, what are 3 takeaways from making the pivot from finance to this that you could share with us? 3 big takeaways.
Yeah, 100%. And I never, ever would have thought I would start a business, especially a consumer products business, and definitely not a non-alcoholic beer business, until I saw that change in my life. I would say definitely have something that you're passionate about that you can wake up at 3 a.m. on weekend days to chase down, and like something's going to go wrong every day, and you have to be really passionate and be seeking a big fulfillment and change in what you do.
Because otherwise it's going to suck.
100%.
It's worse than a regular job.
100%. And but seeking that fulfillment, once you find what your North Star is, the paycheck does not matter whatsoever. Like, I went 30 months without a paycheck, and me and my wife just budgeted for that outcome, and it was the most fulfilling 3 years of my life, really.
And you just drank non-alcoholic beer the whole 30 months?
Yeah, just
no food.
Straight up, yeah. No meals when I'm not around my wife. Yeah.
I love it. So find purpose.
Yeah.
Hard to do, though.
Yeah, and I really didn't know what mine was until I turned 30. So it's like
It might not come right away.
Yeah, and I think you just have to be listening for it and be open to it, and like really be thinking about what's important to you.
But you just said something interesting, right? You found it when you could be failing, you weren't getting paid for 30 months, and you still love doing it.
Exactly, yeah. And it was something so far out of my comfort zone too.
What's the second big one?
I think, as we talked about before, like alcohol was really the single most limiting influence in my life, from productivity to health to diet to sleep, everything.
But you didn't know it.
Yeah, and I thought it was such like a key social element and fun element and stress reliever in my life.
And everything in moderation. It's no big deal. Drink a little alcohol, right?
Yeah.
So like it just fits the whole societal norm.
For sure. And like I quickly realized too, like none of my friends cared if I drank either. Like I still loved going to bars. I just really didn't need that alcohol.
Yeah.
And instead of going to like 3 finance dinners a week, I started going to like Barry's boot camp in the morning, and like all of a sudden you feel great and you have better connections with people, and it was like just a great
So
event.
remove the alcohol. Third one?
I think honestly like the most important thing to me is like clear your mental headspace and like sweat and get comfortable every day. And like if
You're a morning guy?
Huge morning guy, yeah. I actually wake up earlier post finance than I did like in finance, and every day I sweat and get uncomfortable. If I don't have time to go for a run, get a workout with my friends at the gym, I just do a burpee ladder in my living room.
I love it. So. I love it. You heard it here first. Wake up early, sweat, and don't give us any excuses. Oh, I can't get to the gym. I have no time. By the way, you could carry like the hamper, if you have a hamper in your house, up and down the stairs quick for a workout.
Unbelievable.
Thanks for coming.
Joe, thank you so much. You've honestly been a huge influence on my life.
Thanks,
really
because the last
appreciate
guest said there were other gurus that were huge influences on him. So I'm glad that somebody's listening.
You got to keep you sharp. So, yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Spartan Up Podcast. Spartan Up is your partner in resilience for mind, body, and spirit. We're here 3 days every week. Tuesdays, you can find Joe Sena, founder and CEO of Spartan, interviewing biohackers, business leaders, authors, and athletes. Thursdays and Saturdays, catch episodes from our DECA, Endurance, Trail, Combat, and La Ruta series. Do you know someone who needs a little nudge? Maybe they could use some motivation, tactics to be stronger, healthier, happier, more successful. Tell them about our show. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. We want to know who's watching and who's listening. Thanks. See you next time. Today's episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by BetterHelp. Spartan Up listeners can save 10% on their first month by going to betterhelp.com/Spartan.